Hello and welcome to the screencast that's going to detail my digital curation workflow. By workflow, I mean the steps and the techniques and technologies that I use to digitally curate. And by digital curation, I mean gathering together and using and organizing, thinking about online resources in a useful, productive way that helps me to learn about particular topics. And let's take a look. So digital curation is often talked about as having four overlapping steps. Your collection of resources, your reflection on the resources that you've collected, your repurposing of those resources to do what you want them to do, and then sharing what you found out. Collection involves finding resources to do with the particular area of interest or project that you have, and that's to do with the different tools, people, networks and locations that you look for that in, both on and offline. Reflection involves thinking about those, selecting, assessing them, taking a look at evidence and things like that. Repurposing involves adapting what you found to your own contexts and your own aims and goals. So as we do with lots of information that we encounter in the world or in schools, we think about what we want to do with it, and then we adapt what we've learned to our own contexts, where we are, what we're doing, how much knowledge and how many resources we have, and our own aims and goals. What do we want to do with the information we found? And sharing is a very digital phenomenon. And it involves publishing the process, so publishing your reflections, talking about your context, sharing the things that you've collected and your thoughts about them, talking about how you're going to repurpose them, what your context is, what your aims or goals are, and how what you found fits into them, and if you produce something as a result, sharing that, or if you try something out, sharing your ideas about that, and you publish that to a blog or social media. So let's take a look first at collecting. And I think of it as three separate and related things: finding resources, gathering them, and organizing them. So finding resources, what I'm looking at the moment is something called Bring Your Own Device, BYOD. And that's basically talking about students using their own devices, their smartphones, their laptops, their tablets in educational contexts. And what are the advantages? What are the disadvantages? What are the things to think about? What are the problems? What are the solutions? And what does it involve in setting it up and organizing it? And I don't have very much knowledge about that, so I'm collecting information about that at the moment. Finding, I tend to look in a couple of different places. I often look on Twitter, and I know, for example, that the hashtag BYOD is being used a lot at the moment to talk about bring your own devices, because a couple of large websites are currently blogging about bringing your own device, and so there's a conversation happening about that. So I've gotten a couple of resources from that particular hashtag. I also use something called Feedly. This is Feedly here. And Feedly is a content aggregator. Basically, you sign up for an account with Feedly, and then you tell it what websites you want it to follow, and it follows them, and it automatically tells you when those websites have updated with new posts. And that's very, very handy. I have about 70 or 80 websites listed on the left-hand side here. If I were to check these each day, it would take me several hours. It takes me about 10 minutes to check my Feedly feed, and I do that once a day. It tells me who's published. It gives me the title. It gives me a brief introduction, and when I click on it, it gives me a longer summary of the article, or sometimes the entire article, and I can also visit the website. So I find lots of articles on Feedly, and I also use my previous curations. So this is one of my annotated bibliographies, and for this I remember things that I had read last year. So, for example, the eCar study, which talks about interoperability and students' different devices and how that plays around with VLEs and LMSs. And I also used this report here, summary of teacher attitudes to ICT uses in school, and this paper here, do learners really know best? Urban legends in education. This paper here, are digital natives a myth or a reality? And I've used a couple of different papers from my previous curations. So what I'm doing is I'm taking information from Twitter as I find it. I'm searching through Feedly for specific mentions of BYOD, bring your own device, and I found a couple of really, really interesting ones from Edutopia. And I'm gathering those together. And the way I'm gathering those together is I'm putting the information from Feedly and Twitter into a website called, a service called Pocket. And Pocket is down here. Add to Pocket. And if I add something to Pocket, what happens is it gets added to this service here. To Pocket. Okay, and this is where I start to organize resources. I haven't quite gotten to the stage where I'm assessing them, but I'm starting to organize them. And what Pocket allows me to do is it allows me to save anything from the internet to read later. It will also synchronize these across my devices, so I have the same list of articles on my laptop, on my iPad, and on my Android phone, and I can also access this via the web. So if I'm working in at the university library computer room, I can access it there, and it allows me to add tags. You can see here I have the BYOD tag. If I click on that tag, anything that I've stored in Pocket with that tag will show up, and this allows me to organize my Pocket experience. And organizing it like that means that I can follow or find particular themes that are related as well. So I've also checked things by there you go, by apps. So anything that's to do with apps I can check there as well. And you can see curating, preserving and adding value. This is apps, resources and smartphones. It's got to do with BYOD, but it's in there as well. And I can take a look at this, issues and trends in educational technology. So Pocket allows me to categorize things, and that makes it easy for me to organize my thoughts. And then what I'll tend to do is, like I have on my research blog, I will read through the various resources that I've gathered together, and I'll write an assessment of them. So what I think of them, how I think they might help with a particular project that I'm working on at the moment. I'll write that down and I'll publish it on a blog, and that really helps me kind of organize my resources. Okay, so that brings me into the reflection part. So I've gathered together the resources, I've begun thinking about them and reading about them, and by sifting and sorting and choosing through them and assessing what I've read, that helps me think about the position that I'm in, what I want to achieve, and helps me assess the arguments and the evidence and the resources that I have gathered together. Typically, as I said, I'll do this on a blog, and I'll post multiple blog posts about it. You can see here on this blog I've got quite a number of posts. Okay, and then it leads into something like this at the end part. So that's reflecting, assessing, sifting and sorting, and that leads into repurposing, which is me thinking about what's my context, what's my aim, and what can I do with these resources. So with this topic, BYOD, my context is that I don't know a huge amount about it, and because of what I want to do professionally, I'll need to. So my context is one where I don't really have very much information, and I'm trying to get together the basic knowledge about the topic. That's my aim, developing a basic knowledge about the topic. And then what can I do with the resources? Well, with the resources, what I probably need to do with them to get to where I want to go is to put them together into a single blog post that talks about the benefits and disadvantages, the steps that you need to take in terms of implementing this, and basically talks about the entire topic in a way that's meaningful to me. So that's what I'm doing here. And this is part of the sharing as well, so everything feeds into the next stage. I began writing a a blog post about bring your own device, and I'm bringing in the different thoughts and ideas that I reflected on and that I wrote down in my blog. I'm putting them together, and I'm talking about the advantages, the disadvantages. I'm talking about the problems and the solutions. I'm talking about the student perspectives and the educator perspectives. And in writing this blog post and putting together these ideas, I'm moving closer and closer to my goal of having a reasonable amount of information about bring your own device and a reasonable amount of information about how to implement it. And when I'm ready, what I'll do is I will publish that. And that brings me on to the final stage. So once I've achieved my particular aim with this, once I've created my resource, or in this case, once I've written my blog post that gives a basic rundown on what bring your own device is, how it works, how it doesn't work, what the solutions are, what the different apps and pieces of software and technologies that you can use to get around the problems are, I'll share that. And I think that's a key part, which is that you're publishing something which is to be read and is to help other people. And that really helps you shape your own thoughts. It really helps you focus on what you need to achieve. It really helps you edit. It really helps you sharpen your learning and focus very, very intently on where you need to go. So you publish it. In this case, we're publishing it on a blog. You publicize it to the other people in your personal learning network. So maybe you mention it on Twitter. You might mention it on Facebook. You might add it to the social media bookmarking that you use if you use that. And what you're hoping there is that other people who have expertise in the area or ideas in the area or are researching that area or talking about it or thinking about it or working in it will comment on the work that you've done. And if they comment on the work that you've done, hopefully they'll be giving you either extra resources or they'll be reinforcing ideas that you have or challenging ideas that you have. And that will put you in a position whereby you can reconsider what you've made or what you've written or what you think. You can add in the extra resources, you can add in the extra experience, you can reply to the different perspectives, and that will allow you to iterate, which is to give you the next stage in development, which is where you encounter opposing ideas, where you encounter problems, where you encounter things you hadn't thought of, and you have to change and improve your design as a response, and then you share again. And that's roughly how my digital curation workflow works.